Naoya Inoue, the monster, has finally come ashore. Finally come to the shores of the United States, and looked very impressive in doing so, I thought. I did kind of call this fight, pretty much to a T. Funny enough, I did think that Nieves was going to be fairly difficult for him early on, with especially with all those jabs, being a slightly bigger guy, or at the very least, Nieves is used to fighting bigger opponents than Inoue. He's fought even as high as I think featherweight, but normally fights at bantamweight and super bantam. So he definitely had a little bit of durability about him. Pretty good defense too. Fairly good defensive fighter. Not necessarily a great defensive fighter, but a competent one. He's a competent kind of all-around boxer that you could tell that if he doesn't want to let you just beat the living crap out of him, then it's probably not going to happen. But I mean, even with him kind of relenting under Inoue's just general attack, other than some pretty nice jabs and an occasional right hand that Nieves landed pretty nicely. Inoue pretty much showed a modicum of his ability, a modicum, I'd say. He didn't necessarily show off everything. There's some people I've heard say that maybe that he was playing it a little bit closer to the chest, maybe because of the fact that he doesn't want, the likes of Estrada, Quadras, Srisaket, and initially probably Chocolatito before he lost, to be able to have that footage of the things that Inoue does, and maybe see see he makes a mistake there. You got to punch at that moment when he's doing this or doing that. It's those little subtle things where I think he wasn't completely putting out more of his cards on the table. I think he was pretty much fighting at half speed for the most part against Nieves. I've definitely seen him fight with a lot more intensity and a number of different styles, whether it's going backwards, coming forwards, side to side, or what have you. He pretty much kind of slowly and summarily smacked Nieves around, basically. Just smacked him around. Hit him with a lot of nice left hooks to the body. Good overhand rights, kind of countering over the jab, or even over some of Nieves' feints, where it's like Nieves would kind of feint a jab, he'd counter over it. And now Inoue was able to take advantage of quite a few of those kind of lulls in the action when Nieves was looking to kind of juke him out, but he actually never even threw a punch, and then he'd get caught with one of Inoue's. Although some of them were partially blocked because Nieves was keeping a high guard, definitely keeping himself in there in a defensive manner, for sure. But it was really just a matter of time. Inoue was smacking him around, just kind of giving him a beating. Would have turned into a potentially more dangerous, prolonged beating had it continued. And so, of course, Nieves' corner decided to, save the man to fight for another day. He's a good fighter, especially for a man that has 3 jobs, apparently. The guy that has, I guess, a potential future as a pretty solid banker. Some shades of Calvin Brock there. Calvin Brock was a pretty damn good boxer, in spite of the fact that he had just a fantastic profession ahead of him outside of boxing. But I digress. Inoue did a good job. Showed off some really impressive skills, and honestly, all things being considered, with the fact that Juan Francisco Estrada is going to absolutely pursue that mandatory fight with Srisaket that Estrada is owed. And it's not surprising because, Estrada's been waiting for years for one of these big fights to happen. It's like he's the boogeyman. Estrada is the Paul Williams from about 10 years ago of the flyweight division, of the super flyweight division now. Got a lot of guys very hesitant to even acknowledge his existence, basically. They don't want to even act like the guy exists, including some of the guys on HBO. It was about time I finally heard the name Estrada out of some of these guys' mouths, which hasn't been the case the last couple of years, which is kind of ironic considering the fact that Chocolatito pretty much never had a rival throughout his career except for Estrada. It wasn't until Quadras and Srisaket recently, where Gonzalez finally moved up to his 4th weight class, that he found rivals in those 2 guys. But shit, Estrada met him in his 2nd weight class and was his rival. So, that says something. That says something just about Estrada's level of ability, his level of technique. Even going all the way back then when Estrada, I think, was only 22, going into that fight against Chocolatito, smack dab in the middle of his prime, in one of his prime weights. Absolutely. But enough with Estrada. Actually, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. I'll cover him and Quadras in another video. I could see Estrada versus Srisaket and Inoue potentially fighting Quadras. I think that's a great fight to be had. I think Quadras would test Inoue in a certain manner that other fighters haven't necessarily. That hand speed, that foot speed, The fact that Inoue would have to track him down a little bit more. Normally Inoue is the guy that's a little bit more agile, athletic, and is the guy fighting on the back foot, kind of letting his opponent come to him. I mean, sometimes he'll stalk, sometimes he'll let his opponent come to him, but either way, generally he doesn't really have a problem kind of keeping pace or keeping ahead of his opponent. With Quadras, it'd be really interesting because I think he'd be facing a guy that's naturally a little bit quicker than him. And so he would have to settle out just a little bit more in order to be able to track him down. Otherwise, proving that he has like true elite level, pound for pound level ring cutting ability, as one of the best ring cutters. Because I think it takes being one of the best ring cutters to be able to cut Quadras down at the pass. I mean, even Srisaket, as brutal of a fighter as he is, as physically domineering a fighter as he is, had a lot of trouble kind of keeping up with Quadras's erratic, sporadic movement and quickness. So, I definitely think that's a very good fight for him. If not, I mean, the thing is, Inoue is always going to be in good fights against good fighters, simply because of the fact that the way his contract is structured is he has to fight a guy that's in the top 3 of his sanctioning body, the WBO in this case, or one of the other champions. So his next fight has to be against either Juan Francisco Estrada, who's actually the number 1 for the WBO and the WBC, funny enough, Rex Cho, who's the number 2 for the WBO, Jamie Conlon, who's the number 3 for the WBO, Jiran Akaz, who is the IBF champion, Khalid Yafai, who's the WBA champion, or I guess Sho Ishida if he manages to beat Yafai, since that fight is coming up soon, or Shizuka Rungvisai, the WBC champion. I'd imagine, all things considered, Estrada versus Rungvisai is likely to happen. I doubt Cal Yafai and Eddie Hearn are going to come to the table, considering how dangerous Inoue is, and yet how big of a star he has to really bloom and become. If anything, I think that Yafai and Hearn will wait to cash out until there's only one true rival that he can make a big bundle on, and take that risk and likely lose. And then Jiran Akaz. I mean, I could see Akaz doing it. I think Akaz actually turned Inoue down December last year. I don't think he turned him down. I know that he turned him down, but I think he did it for a reason, because of the fact that Akaz did manage to get on the Pacquiao versus Horn in the card, and he did scored a very impressive knockout on that card, and that was a very high profile and a high paying win for him. And so a fight with Inoue now that Inoue is more known in the States, and considering the fact that Akaz is promoted by the one and only Manny Pacquiao, MP Promotions, I think that there's a lot more of a higher level of crossover appeal for an Inoue versus Akaz unification fight than there was in December of last year, when it would have basically been a Japanese domestic fight. Although, Akaz, of course, being from the Philippines, but Filipino television tends to be kind of here and there when it comes to actually televising boxing, which is kind of strange. It's really unfortunate too, because of how big of a powerhouse the Philippines has been in boxing. Not even just recently, but just generally. I mean, even historically speaking, a lot of great Filipino fighters, mostly at the lower weights, yes, but great nonetheless, great fighters. And I think Akaz is absolutely deserving to be one of the higher tier, top level fighters in what is the best division in boxing. I'll still say it once more: the best division in boxing. Wide variety, disparity of styles. Between all the guys, very, very different styles between all of them. Very high level stuff. They dominate all the other guys except for each other, and those are the fights that you want to see. Those are the fights you want to see happen. So hopefully they do. If not in Akaz, it's likely that Inoue will be fighting Rex Cho or Jamie Conlon. Not sure if it's going to be Rex Cho, because I still think that Top Rank Bob Arum, since they promote Cho, that they may still sit on that to wait until Inoue eventually moves up to bantamweight, as he's been talking about the last couple of years, but he hasn't done it yet, so I'm sure they're getting kind of antsy about that. I could see him fighting Jamie Conlon, and he'll destroy Jamie Conlon. Now, don't get it twisted. Inoue will do serious damage to Jamie Conlon. Jamie Conlon is not on Inoue's level. Fuck it. I think now Inoue would knock out Michael Conlon and Jamie Conlon in the same night. Michael Conlon is a super bantamweight / featherweight, so take that for what it's worth. Inoue is a special fighter. He absolutely is. But he's in a special division. He is in a special division, so I think it's going to make it that much harder for him to truly show and prove his quality on the biggest stage, on the of boxing, the mainstream kind of casual fan boxing audience that he's been kind of showcased in front of now. So if he manages to do it, that pound for pound number 1 spot is very much open for him. and I'm somebody that thinks that he could be deserving of that spot right now. But his recent opponents, it's a pound for pound is partially what have you done for me lately, and his recent opponents, not entirely Inoue's fault, haven't struck the imagination quite as much as when he was rolling through Ryoichi Taguchi, Adrian Hernandez, and then Omar Narvaez when he made his 115 debut. But um, he'll definitely refresh that impression, remake that impression if he happens to defeat the likes of Srisaket, Estrada, and or Quadras. Especially if he does it in a conclusive fashion as opposed to controversial fashion, which is the way that the fights between Choco, Srisaket, Quadras, and Estrada have been going. But like I said before, when the best fight the best, Ray Leonard and Hagler didn't wash each other. Hagler didn't wash Duran. you don't often get whitewashes when you have true top talents fighting each other at the right time in their primes and so on and so forth. Sometimes the cards just don't match up for it to be that way. Some guys are a little bit older, a little bit worn out by the time they're fighting a guy that they might have been a bit more competitive with a few years before, and or the reverse happens too. Sometimes a guy kind of catches another guy before he eventually becomes as great as he will become. Happens though. But now I think we're definitely in for some fun action at the very least, if not true all-time great level of showcasing his ability. We will see. We shall see. We shall see. He's on the cusp of it for sure. I think Estrada especially might be the one to potentially stand in the way, but we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be real fun, I think. But that's going to do it for this one. Inoue with a pretty conclusive victory over Nieves. Nieves, if he's able to maybe even drop a weight. He was actually pretty light on fight night going into this fight. He'll still be a fairly viable fighter. Against all but pretty much the top 6 or 7 guys in this division. Nieves is a pretty solid fighter for the division. But going all the way even down to Junior Casimiro, Rashid Warren, Sho Ishida, etc. It's tough, man. It's tough when you're in a division that's this stacked with talent, future champions, former champions, multi-time champions, multi-weight champions, etc. It's real difficult. I mean, shit. Srisaket Sarungvasai fought in his pro debut against, I think it was his pro debut against Akira Yagashi. Yagashi was a 3-time world champion, man. So, the lineal flyweight champion as well. So, that can't go overlooked at all. Absolutely not. So that's it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.